Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you with a quick vid. This is a response to MetalMickey's top 5 drop-offs. Um, I thought I would just throw my hat into the ring in this and give my choices, because I thought all his choices were really good. And of course, his big gimme choice was Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son to No Prayer for the Dying. I mean, everybody knows that's a giant drop off. And the final one that I talk about in this video is going to be probably just that obvious to every metal fan on Earth. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. And first, I guess I'll show off. This is in no particular order. I think the first one is going to be the good album I show, and then the worst album. So anyway, let's talk about band number 1. We're going to talk about Sepultura, and we're going to talk about Chaos AD. And I really, really like this album quite a lot. I mean, I almost could have done this either way. I could have shown Arise first and then this, because this is not as good as Arise or Beneath the Remains. I like this, but is it as good as those albums? No. But that being said, I still really like this album. Think it's really good. Think it's really solid, and I really enjoy it. Right now, what did they follow this up with? They followed it up with this. And yes, there are some enjoyable moments on this album. It's not, I wouldn't call it a terrible album. But compared to Sepultura's previous work, just simply was not as good. Period. It had way too much of a nu metal influence on it, or sound, or whatever you want to call it. Although I think it predates. It was like kind of on the early cusp. Maybe it's more the other way. Like it influenced nu metal rather than was influenced by. Because this came out in '96. But it just does not live up to Sepultura's previous work at all. I guess because of all the trouble the band was having, and Max left after this album anyway, so definite giant drop off in my opinion in quality. All right, next one I am going to show off is going to be. That's too obvious. Okay, we'll go with a. I know I'm jumping around here, guys. Now, not everybody loves this album, Stomp 442 by Anthrax. And, I mean, there are a lot of fans who would argue I could have went from Sound of White Noise to this. But I really like this album. It's actually one of my favorite Anthrax albums. I would actually rate this above some Belladonna era stuff, as I really like this quite a lot. So I think it's, quote, the better album. And that being said, the album that followed it up, Volume 8, not terrible. I actually like this one a fair amount, but it's not quite as good as Stomp 442. It was a bit of a drop off. It wasn't. It was like basically instead of it, going off a cliff. I guess I should have shown this one first because I think this is probably the closest to as good as the other album, but such is life. This was somewhat of a decrease in quality, but not a giant falling down of Anthrax Volume 8. So, next one we're going to show off is sort of obvious to me, and then the two after that I'll show off are going to be incredibly obvious. So, we'll start with the good album, Slayer, God Hates Us All. In my opinion, this was the best Slayer album since Seasons in the Abyss. Right. I did like Divine Intervention. Don't get me wrong. It's a good album. I like this better. I also definitely like this better than Diabolus and Musica. I really enjoy this album and think it's one of Slayer's better albums. Kind of a high point. In fact, it's my favorite latter-day Slayer album. So I think this is a high watermark for them. And then they followed it up with this, Christ Illusion, which it's okay. It's not terrible, but I thought it was a fairly significant drop for them. And it did not get any better with World Painted Blood. I don't even own that album. Okay. But I think this was a pretty significant drop off from God Hates Us All. Now we're going to get into two pretty incredibly obvious ones. So Apologize in advance, but I got to show these off. All right. And again, the arguments could be made in these bands here that this easily could have gone the other way with the album previous to this, you know. But I figured I'd show their most famous drops because why not have some fun with this? Megadeth's cryptic writings. You could have easily argued that Euthanasia was way better than this. And I wouldn't disagree with you. I like Euthanasia a lot better than this. But that being said, I like this album a fair amount. I think it's pretty good. It definitely has a good amount of good songs on it, but there are definitely some weaker tracks on this. But overall, I think it's a fairly good album. Not perfect, but fairly good. And then, of course, the drop off, Risk. It's an easy one. This is an easy gimme, you know. And there's really only the only thing, in my opinion, that's really worthwhile on this are the time beginning and end song. Those are great. The rest of this just isn't particularly good. Some of it's okay, but there was definitely a big quality drop from Cryptic Writings to Risk. But again, you could have made the argument. Hell, you could have said you could have said that about the last couple albums before this one, if you really wanted to. And now, of course, guys, the biggest gimme in metal that there is for drop-off in quality. And again, you could have potentially made this argument for their other album as well before this. And, of course, we're going to show the, quote, good album being Metallica's Black Album. Yes, I know this is incredibly obvious, and people could have made the argument, well, it was, And Justice for All was, to this was the drop-off, or somebody could have said Master of Puppets and Justice for All. I don't agree with that. Personally, I love Justice. I also love this album a lot. And, of course, we got Load following the Black Album. And yes, there is no denying that this is a major, major step down in quality for Metallica, going from the Black Album to this, to Load. I don't really think anybody's going to dispute that. So, anyway, that is my pick for the top 5 drop-offs. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my choices, if you have different ones, whatever. As always, if you like this, thumbs up. If you hate me, thumbs down, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And thanks to MetalMickey for the idea for this vid. I'll see you guys next time.